Welcome to the Village of Lake Bluff Board of Trustees regular meeting. It is Monday and it is October 12th, 2020. And of course, due to our COVID-19 emergency, this meeting is held primarily virtually as required by law. At least one representative from the village is at Village Hall. And we do have some opportunity for people to attend at Village Hall or else by home. We've done this before, and you can do online or at lakebluff.org virtual meeting, or you can dial in at 312-626-6799. All right, could we have a call to order? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ankerman.
Here, I'm very consistent.
Trustee Terlow.
Here.
Trustee Dewar.
Here.
Trustee Markey.
Here.
Trustee Meyer.
Here.
Trustee Toll.
Here.
Okay, could we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Okay, I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to
the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
and justice
justice for all. Thanks. We have a couple of proclamations this evening. We have designated the month of October 2020 as Dysautonomia Awareness Month. That is a group of medical conditions that result in a malfunction of the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for automatic bodily functions such as respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, temperature control, and more. And whereas dysautonomia impacts over 70 million people around the world, it includes conditions such as diabetic, autonomic neuropathy. I really think I needed a medical degree here. Vasovagal, pure autonomic failure, and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I think Aaron, should have had Aaron read this. You would have got this a little better than me, I think. But our intent is good. Whereas dysautonomia impacts people of any age, gender, race, or background, including many individuals living in Lake Bluff. And whereas dysautonomia can be very disabling, and this disability can result in social isolation, stress on the families of those impacted, and financial hardship. And whereas some forms of dysautonomia can result in death, causing tremendous pain and suffering for those impacted and their loved ones. And whereas increased awareness about dysautonomia will help patients get diagnosed and treated earlier, save lives, and foster support for individuals and families coping with dysautonomia in our community. And whereas Dysautonomial International, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that advocates on behalf of patients living with dysautonomia, encourages communities to celebrate Dysautonomia Awareness Month each October around the world. And whereas we seek to recognize the contributions of medical professionals, patients, and family members who are working to educate our citizenry about dysautonomia in Lake Bluff. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen O'Hara, Village President of the Village of Lake Bluff, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Dysautonomia Awareness Month in the Village of Lake Bluff. We have one more proclamation this evening. And this is designating October 24th, 2020 as World Polio Day. Whereas Rotary is a global network of neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite to take action to create lasting change in communities across the globe. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, follow high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1985 launched Polio Plus and in 1988 helped establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Today includes the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance to immunize the children of the world against polio. Whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating this disease. And whereas to date, Rotary has contributed more than US $2.1 billion in countless volunteer hours to protecting more than 2.5 million children in 122 countries, and whereas Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be leveraged to maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical staff, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $10 billion to the effort. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary members in more than 35,000 clubs throughout the world that sponsor service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, disease, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in their local communities and abroad. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen O'Hara, Village President of the Village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2020, World Polio Day in the Village of Lake Bluff, and encourage all citizens to join Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world.
Madam President, there's an attendee who wishes to I'm not certain if this person wants to speak on the proclamations or what, but it would be all right if we brought this person to ask if they're looking to comment on the proclamations.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
John, you can unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I was just playing with my buttons.
Oh.
It's getting ready.
Okay. Okay. So you're not ready to speak right now.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
Gotcha. Thank you. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. We have at this time the consideration of the minutes of the September 23rd, 2020 Village Board meeting. Do I have a motion, please, for the minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dewitt and a second by Mr. Charlot. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, would you please roll call?
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
Trustee Dewar.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
All right. At this point in time, we offer up to 15 minutes for anyone or people who may want to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Drew, do we have anybody that wishes to do so?
If somebody is wishing to speak, now is a great time to raise your hand, and we will address you and allow you to speak, but doesn't appear so.
Okay. All righty. Let's go into number 7. Let's just go through the agenda as is this evening. We have the warrant report for September 29th to October 12th of 2020. We have expenditures of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $389,248.37 for September 29th through October 12th. Do I have a motion to approve the warrant report?
So moved.
So moved by, thank you, Mr. Meyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Markey. Any questions, concerns to the finance director or administration? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
Trustee Dewar.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankeman.
Aye.
All right, village administrators report.
So thank you very much. I know typically we don't have any sort of special recognition or thank you for our friends and doers at the farmers market, and that's probably should change. And this year has really brought that to attention, to my attention, and it has been an exceptional year in many regards. But I would say that the work of the farmers market this season, which ended on Friday, was no less than spectacular. The amount of effort and work that went in from beginning until end, and the dedication of folks was just unbelievable. And I interestingly, today, October 12th, I think Gridley pointed this out to us, is National Farmers Day. And while it's not Farmers Market Day, I'm guessing that the other 364 days of the year should be, certainly for our group. And so all this is with a big thanks to Northwestern Medicine. Hospital President Tom McAfee lives here in town. He's a big fan of the farmers market, and they've been a great sponsor. But our group, the committee, and I'll name them, and our longtime chair, Pony Swanton, Daria Andrews, Sean Bjork, Adrian Fawcett, Lise Martin, Sarah Winnick, and Kathy Shepard have been the committee. Gridley remains our market manager, and nobody better in her role than that. But what I really wanted to point out and share, folks, is that there were volunteers that spent every Friday at the farmers market there, standing guard literally at the entry points and access points to ensure that folks were wearing a mask, were aware of our market regulations. And those folks were Daria Andrews, who's also a committee member, Susan Hoagland, who's not a committee member but a great volunteer, Susan Raymore, also a volunteer, not a committee member, and then Kathy Shepard and Pony, who are on the committee. But those folks really just put in an enormous amount of work and effort. Between the committee, the whole meeting, and tonight's village board meeting, I moved behind me the Lake Bluff Village flag. And what I'm going to do is, if I had them here present, I would give them a flag. And that's what I'm going to do, is so they can have literally wrap themselves in Lake Bluff colors on a regular basis. And occasionally, I guess they could fly it in front of their homes if they really wanted to. But they've certainly earned it, and I consider this their ambassador card forever. But what a great effort. And that's, Glenn and the interns have also worked very hard on all this, but I just really want to point out the volunteers' work. It's just exceptional. I think they're on the line too, as well. If any or all would like to speak, Madam President, let me see if any of them are raising their hand.
Would anyone like to speak on this one? Because it has been an exceptional year.
I'm going to move them over and maybe force them to speak. How about that?
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Winnick. Thanks for sending me the line here. I was not one of the volunteers that stood post controlling all the, mask wearing and dog parking, bike parking, but I was seeing how much the community appreciated the availability of the farmers market, as well as just having a little bit of hope that 2020 has kind of not really been feeling. So the market, we were thrilled to have it this year. I think, there were some markets in surrounding communities, but we really showed a lot of participation from the vendors, and it was a really good testament for Lake Bluff to not only hold it, but also just, again, provide that hope and, drawing of our residents to enjoy the market. And I heard nothing but praise that they were all very grateful that we could, as a village, provide that to its residents and surrounding communities. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sarah.
Daria, you can go ahead.
Yeah, well, I wanted to thank all of you for the vision and the logistics, and so much work went into it. And I have to tell you, I was stationed on the Sheridan roadside by the train station, And almost every Friday, there were all these bicycle groups that would be whizzing by. And then someone would notice a farmer's market, and we'd be like, hey, there's a farmer's market. And it would go down the whole line of bicycle riders, and then they'd come on the way back, and they were just flawed. And they're like, they would ask me questions about Lake Bluff and tell me, oh my God, this is wonderful. So every Friday, there was someone new who discovered Lake Bluff, which we all love. And every Friday, there was someone who thanked me and all the other volunteers for being there and having it. And I don't know if you realize how incredibly wonderful it was, because there was, I mean, Lake Bluff is all about our lifestyle and our activities, and this was really the only thing going on for a while, and people really appreciated it. So I have to thank all of you for having the vision and doing it. It was fun. 90% of the time. It was fun. We had our moments, but it was fun, and I'm so glad I did it. So thank you.
Thank you, Darian. Thank you.
Gridley?
I'm unmuted, but I'm not saying anything, but Pony is. He's
Oh, great.
He's next to me.
Oh, great. Hey, Pony.
That's me, huh?
Yes.
I actually have quite a few comments, but to tell you the truth, Drew hit just about every one of them on the nail. We really have enjoyed being part of the farmers market. I've been part of it for 27 years now. It's been a labor of love for Gridley and I for most of that time. We're very thankful to Nassau and to Drew for letting us run the market. Took a little convincing in the beginning, but it all came through, and we're happy to have that. We're very fortunate to have Drew, Glenn, and John Scapoletti while he was still here with all the logistics, and there are a lot of logistics to go into this, vendor contact, street closings. I think closing the street was a big factor in this year's market, and I hope we can work something out where we can continue with that. He has made their contributions, as Drew said, their media people, their vendor lunch people, their people who run the corn roast in the years that we're able to have it. And most of all, they're part of the vendor selection, and that's the biggest part as far as I'm concerned. The ambassadors were new this year. I think they had a good time. We had them for 19 weeks. We hoped for 4 weeks. And they stuck it out for the cold, the rain, the heat, some abuse, little, but some. And they were really volunteers. And all these people are volunteers. Gridley's been the face of the market, and I think we've been very lucky to have her. She interacts with the vendors, knows their operations, their families, checks on sales are, anything she can do to help them. Additionally, she knows the customers, and they know her. They often come up to her and thank her for what she does. She always thanks them and says it's a team effort, and it really is a team effort. It's a team effort here and team effort with us. My role is to sort of keep everybody focused and to keep on that this is a farmer's market. It's nothing more. It's a farmer's market. And to make sure that we get the type of vendors that we need for a farmer's market, I think we've done a very good job with that. I'm at the market every week. I observe and I fill in when needed. For 27 years, as I said, we've been doing this. I think the market's been a huge success. I think it's been a huge draw to the Central Business District, and I'm very proud of that. Finally, off of the farmers market, in November, we're planning on starting a vendor pickup in the train station. I don't think we've had quite the dates set yet, so keep an eye on social media, but a number of our vendors, there isn't any farmers markets this winter because of this virus that all closed down. So we hope to have 8 or 10 vendors who will set up in the train station parking lot. There'll be pre-order, prepay, pickup available. If you keep an eye on social media, the website of the village and the farmers market, you'll see something coming out for that. Hopefully we'll have a list of the vendors with their contacts, and we'll be able to continue this on for a little longer. That's enough from me. Thank you very much, everybody. We've had a great time, and I think it's been a good run.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Village attorney.
No report tonight, thank you.
Report, okay.
I do have a report.
Oh, okay.
Regarding the Stonebridge litigation, as I reported about a month ago, our motion to dismiss the developer's complaint was largely granted. The developer's motion to dismiss our code violation complaint was largely denied, and the judge gave the developer 30 days to file a new amended complaint in their lawsuit and to answer our complaint in the code violation. Those pleadings have now been filed late last week. We are evaluating them. We'll report further back to the village board, but the village has 30 days in which to respond or otherwise plead to those pleadings. So that's the status of both of those cases.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, village president's report. You know, a few years ago, Chicago Magazine came out with the 20 best farmers markets. Chicago. Lake Bluff was the only suburban town that was listed as one of the very best. I would argue that this year we were totally the best. The production, the logistics, everything, and the work that was done by the Swamptons and everybody else was spectacular and truly shows the true spirit of this community in terms of volunteerism. It was a wonderful year in showing how people work together and how with meticulous planning and thorough carry out that it was a success. So thank you all very, very much for that. It is so greatly appreciated. And when Drew uses the word ambassadors, that's exactly who all of you were. True ambassadors. Thank you again. The only other thing I have on here is a request to extend the village president's declaration of civil emergency. We have had that request ever since March 18th at every board meeting, which would continue until the next board meeting, and I am asking for that to occur again. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you by Ms. Ankerman, and second by Mr. Dewart. Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 11, we have acceptance of the correspondence and all correspondence that's been delivered to the Village Board of Trustees in the informational reports on September 25th and October 2nd. Do I have a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Markey. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Ankerman. Would please have a roll call on that one?
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
Trustee Dewar.
Aye.
Okay, this is item number 12, which is an ordinance amending a special use permit and granting parking variations for Center Avenue Partners Developments, which is at 79 and 91 East Scranton Avenue and Prairie Expresso. This is second reading consideration. This is the first of several board items related to a zoning relief application filed by Prairie Perspective LLC to allow their expansion into tenant space addressed at 79 Scranton Avenue, which is approximately 768 square feet. In addition to the items on Monday's agenda, Prairie Expresso would require an amendment to their license agreement for the use of village property to add outdoor seating, which would be prepared by staff for consideration at the board's October 12th meeting. Prairie Expresso would also require sign and site plan approval at a later date for their proposed alterations. This zoning relief, if granted, would allow Prairie Expresso to accommodate indoor customer seating and offer additional food and beverage options. The new and existing tenant spaces would have an interior service hallway for employees, but customers would reach the property through two separate entrances. The petitioner has indicated they would operate the pedestrian alley only seasonally following their expansion. Allowing the expansion would require approval of a special use permit and parking variations and would take the form of an amendment to Ordinance 2020-13, which governs the various special uses and variations on the property, including Prairie Expresso. At the conclusion of the public hearing on September 16th, to consider the application, the PCZBA unanimously recommended the Village Board approve the requested relief with the condition the hours of operation be limited such that the Walkway Restaurant continues to close at 10 p.m. daily. Except on Saturday, the restaurant may operate only between 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. On Saturday, the restaurant may operate only between 7 a.m. and midnight. In addition, other conditions applicable to Prairie Expresso today, such as the requirement that employees park in the train station parking lot, would continue to apply. Members of the PCZBA emphasized various concerns expressed in testimony regarding parking in the Central Business District. The Village Board approved first reading of the ordinance at its September 28th meeting. All right. You know, and I bet, did I do a first and second on this one?
No,
So
ma'am.
moved.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think I did. Okay, thank you, Mr. Meyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, Mr. Cole. All right, open for discussion?
I just have.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go, Regis.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, and the application talks about two entrances. Obviously, the one off of Scranton. The second entrance is from the parking area. Would that be the second entrance?
John, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sorry, Karen. Actually, you know what? Honestly, there's only going to be one entrance to the interior, which is 79, which is the existing bike shop. The second entrance, I'm not sure what that reading means. I'm pretty sure it just means into the alley, because where Prairie exists now will be a walk-up window rather than an entrance. So there will only be one. There might be a rear entrance for bathroom use from the backside of the building, but I don't think into the space will be separate.
Okay, and the only, and I'm sure that there's a clarification here, maybe, in looking at the sketch here that's on, I guess it may be, I'm not sure if it's page 7 of 7 here, but it refers to the existing service point into the Scranton Alley as storage. That's not, I'm assuming that's not entirely correct, that you will continue to have some service there, at least seasonally?
Yes, that's correct. I think that is just the original ground plan of the actual building itself.
Okay. I just wanted, I wanted to make sure that that there are a couple of different moving pieces here,
For sure.
and I just wanted to make sure that I understood what your game plan was. And
Right.
this turns out to be a nice way to leverage your two spaces.
Absolutely, yes. It helps with the fact that we have a 6 to 8 month winter.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, please, Madam President. I would like to focus for a second on the letter from Gary Lawrence regarding approving any amplified music being played in that location due to reverberation of the different parts of buildings. Well, I really like music, and I think we might have an issue there.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up in the first part of the question on my end.
Yes, let me restate that. I am focusing on the letter from Gary Lawrence, who owns the building that is directly east of you. He is stating that he's vehemently opposed to amplified music being played in the alley or basically directly next to his building due to basically music being amplified by the close proximity of different buildings.
Got it. Right now we have no amplified music outside. It is interior of the shop, and it is closing down at 10 p.m. And I don't think we have any variance for asking for any variance for outdoor amplified music.
So if I may just clarify, I think what typically happens, and John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there are music speakers that are mounted in the alley that are playing music that has historically been played in the existing double door space opening up onto the alley. On occasion, throughout the summer, the last few years, there have been special events that have been authorized via the existing special use permit where Prairie has had like open mic night, and another occasional special event where they may have other music live performances from time to time, some of which did involve amplified music. And I will say this, that when this has happened, this has been something that I've been aware of. I have not, this is again through the existing ordinance allows the village administrator to enter into or authorizing certain activities. And when they've occurred, I've had conversations with John about them, and I knew they stretched the boundaries from time to time with noise. And what's happened is they have been handled in a way where if there were complaints, then they were managed with disturbing the peace complaints that way. And I was doing that to, one, allow the space to become, an interesting and vibrant part of the community. At the same time, I more than likely allowed it to stretch too far from time to time and disturb the peace. So I certainly accept my demerits or caning or beating or whatever you want to call it over that. But I think that's something that I've authorized John to do and from time to time. So I think, I don't know for certain, John, if you have different plans or you intend to continue to have other special events from time to time to be subject to the existing special use permit guidelines. Do you plan to continue like open mic night with I think you did on, was it Wednesdays or Thursday evenings in the summer?
It was Thursday evening. I would love to. It's widely accepted by the community. They liked it a lot. Lots of great people came out and performed. I understand that it is a noise issue. I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's like the block party. But I don't want to say that I'm not going to do it. I would like to be able to move it inside in the winters. That's part of the idea of being able to have indoor spaces, being able to eliminate some of the raucousness that happens outside.
So I guess the point I'd like to make clear to Trustee Charlot's concern about amplified music, that is, there's a mechanism currently in the existing special use permit that's not looking to change with regards to, there's a tool to handle that. And if the direction is to limit the amount of amplified music in some way, then that can be handled at a staff level. If there's a more broad brush approach, then you certainly have the flexibility to amend this ordinance. I would say, practically speaking, a small amplification like the open mic nights, I don't recall getting any complaints on those nights. I do recall that there was.
I'd like to speak.
Sure.
Thank you. And I know I have a very vested interest in this, as living right there. It's a very small area, 14 feet across. I have 6 rooms, and there are times, and I think we've discussed that before, I can't sit in any of those 6 because the noise is so loud, which totally disrupts, the livability of it. And to, the neighbors too. My landlord is upset. My landlord realizes I've actually been more tolerant than someone else who may move in there because I want to see things. I think it can go without amplification. I have no problem with acoustical music at all. I think that's great. But the minute it amplifies, it reverberates against my things. In fact, to the point where last year there even was a Kroya band playing in the parking lot, which caused, besides numerous complaints. I will tell you personally, I would prefer there will be no acoustics in that space, because I think it violates peaceful existences for the residents. Again, no problem with acoustical types of music whatsoever. That's great.
Yeah, I understand that the noise does get loud. It is a place of people enjoying themselves and having fun. So therefore, the music does get out of hand. But to your point, Kathy, there's block parties. There's Innovasi speakers.
John.
Yeah.
John, that's right. And at Innovasi and block parties, the music goes out. It is not within that 14 feet. Backing against walls. It's a totally different environment. And I love the fact that we have all this, but that was never designed to have amplified music in that space.
Mm-hmm.
It is totally different from the block parties or anything, because that all goes out into the air. That all goes out. This doesn't. This is contained. And I will tell you, it is very hard for livability whenever that happens.
Mm-hmm.
No one is saying that you can't have acoustical music. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would damage what's going on there. But I will tell you, it is not pleasant at all. And I've been for a long time.
One thing I'd like to add also to what Kathy is referring to is there's also 3 other residents in that unit. So Kathy is not the only one being affected by the music.
I was actually going to ask if there's a residential unit above the new space, the indoor space. If that's, I think there's an apartment above that, and if those people are aware of the changes that are going on. I don't know if we.
There is no residential living above those spaces right there.
Where the bike shop.
It's just above. It's on the west side of that building, above Innovasi and the other door on that side. But there are residents across the street for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that my question to you is also, is that as you move indoors, is that an activity you can move indoor for mic nights and other things, other music?
Absolutely, yeah, of course it is. That's something we could do. Although I do really love the outdoor feel of the alley, especially in the summers when people are out and about. That seems to be the best time to kind of utilize that space. So, I understand maybe the hard shutdown's at 9:30. I don't know how to amend it really. I mean, last we talked about it, there was the ordinance is, if people complain, the cops will come and then we shut it down. Right? Isn't that how it works?
It doesn't appear that the question, John, has to do with how your hours of operation, but rather the noise level in rather a confined space.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question that you have offered a lively event during the summer that is very Lake Bluffy. At the same time, it would seem to me anyway that in such a small space that an acoustic production, whether it's open mic, if as it were, or not, you should be able to overcome the need for amplification in such a tight space, and still come out with what is such a vibrant program for members of the community and families.
Mm-hmm. I do know that just sometimes when the alley's packed, just the noise of voices itself can drown out any sort of music. Because it does, like you're saying, Kathy, it does appear to be a lot louder because it's an echo chamber. I'd like to continue doing what I do, but you guys are the ones that are writing the rules, so I don't know how to proceed here.
So procedurally, if the board is inclined, you can amend the ordinance and make it, remove that, I guess, any sort of flexibility. Alternatively, I'm certainly, if the consensus is to restrict it to acoustic only, and I presume the board is still comfortable with the speakers that are still there, but the idea of, and I say the speakers, there's speakers that are mounted on the wall, for those of you who've been in the alley, but the idea of saying that, for future special events, no amplification, period, that direction can be done without amending the ordinance in front of you. That can just be the direction to me, and I will see that that's done.
So if we were to do that, John could still, or any of our businesses, or anybody really could still apply for a special use permit in order to use amplified music. Is that right?
So, well, it depends on how it was done, right? If you leave it to the discretion of the village administrator to work with John or other businesses, which is usually what's done, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's another such a restriction on any other property where there's no amplification of music permitted. I can't think of another property where we have a special use permit or any other special zoning relief or restrictions like that. But I think leaving it like it's currently written and not adding language to the existing regulations provides flexibility in the future, or even some idea of, I'm trying to think of an instance or situation where amplification would be helpful, and I don't know what that looks like off the top of my head, but
I don't either.
But if there is such a scenario that, again, you don't have to change the ordinance, and again, if this is the consensus of the board, I can certainly carry that out. So.
I guess I have a question. I don't frequent the space, so that's my biggest hurdle to, throwing in my opinion, since I don't use that space. I just occasionally pass through it. And on a given evening when there's not a special event, but people are perhaps having coffee or visiting with friends or, meeting neighbors there, is that something that the noise level of laughing and joking and gathering for conversation, is that something that's to the level that, because it's a unique space, it's 14 feet wide, there's all these hard surfaces, and it's an echo chamber, does that type of activity really inhibit the useful enjoyment of one's own home? Because there's a point at which, when you're renting or buying a space, that it's next to the fire department or whatever else is obviously already there, and I don't really have a gauge for on an evening where people are just out and laughing and having fun. Is that also offensive to the people who live there, and it prohibits them?
Well, let me kind of I'll speak of this. First of all, I love the concept of what John has done. It's been great. what I said is the amplified music. No, the normal, look, I'm a middle school principal, retired. I'm used to noise and talking and all of that. I was a lunchroom supervisor for 20 years. I'm used to all that. That's all fine. That's it. But it's the music that reverberates off the walls in through the windows and which go all the way down the alleyway. That is what causes, for me personally, and the neighbors and my neighbors and the landlord, a problem. Not the normal conviviality of people having fun and talking and laughing, and that's great. That's normal. But the blasting of that music through amplification is, I'm sorry, that is just not designed for that.
And is the amplification something that happens every Saturday night or just on the Thursday nights? I don't know the frequency of it that, you know.
The frequency over the last year has increased. You know, it has increased. You know, and when it gets to the point where you can't go in any of your rooms, and I have 6 rooms, that infringes on, frankly, the livability. And I'm not opposed to anything else. Okay, I'm the liquor committee. I've granted the liquor licenses and allowing for spirits. That's all great. But I will tell you, and I am so awkward having to sit here at my own meeting and try to explain this, but it is not conducive to being able to have an evening at home, because I can't listen to the TV, you know, or anything else. It's a mess, to be honest.
Well, I think I'd like to say something here, and I think for this discussion we ought to ignore the fact that Kathy O'Hara is the village president and consider how we would treat this discussion if Kathy O'Hara was simply a resident in the adjacent apartment. And I think that if we had a citizen coming forward here as a resident in that adjacent apartment, and also her landlord, I think that's Mr. Lawrence, correct me if I'm wrong, her landlord has voiced the same concern, and we have at least some information indirectly that the other residents there have the same concern. So ignoring Kathy's position in the village, but looking at those objective facts, and that we have a citizen, a private citizen as such, who is raising this concern, I think we ought to take it with a degree of seriousness and see if we can arrive at some way to address something that is making it difficult for a private citizen adjacent there to enjoy their space. So I think that's where I'm coming from, that we ought to address it and address it from the point of view of Kathy as a private citizen. You're on mute, Joy.
Sorry, my dog was barking earlier, so I muted myself. I'm just wondering if we move to the location of the musician and put them more out. John, I don't know. I think my understanding of where the musicians usually are is kind of back towards the back of the alley, towards the parking lot. Do you usually?
Yeah, we've had them in a couple different positions, and two. You know, to Kathy's point, both positions, it doesn't make a difference. It is just, you know, a reverberating hall. You know, so we've tried. We had like a little trio one day, and Kathy, I remember you came down. It was like a brunch afternoon. It was too loud, you know. I mean,
I have over the last couple of years, I've tried to, but it is just getting to the point where it's silly, and I don't feel that just having acoustics is going to harm your business. You've got a good model there. People enjoy it. The talking, the laughing, the drinking, that's all fine. It's just the reverberation.
Yeah, I do think it's really important that people are able to peacefully enjoy where they live. I completely agree with that. I'm just trying to look for if there were, you know, special events only at a certain point in time, you know, is that a compromise? And maybe the compromise is really just that acoustic only. If people who are attending the event can hear to some degree, if somebody's singing or it's just orchestral music, I mean, it's kind of background to the people visiting and talking. And it perhaps doesn't need that type of amplification, or it can be, I don't know if there's a certain level of decibels that, you know, are acceptable.
Sure. I would just like to say that, you know, in the version 2, when we actually move into a bigger space, the space that you're currently hearing that boombox come from will no longer be have a stereo with the doors open. It'll be a service window. Therefore, you're not going to get as much of you're not going to get the sound there, because the majority of the store sound will be indoors in 79, not in the alley. You know, and so overflow will be mostly just seating outside. You know, it's not going to be an operational pinpoint of operation. So my stereo, my music that was playing out into the alley will not be there anymore.
Is it possible, though, to quantify it by decibels? I mean, there's so many decibels when an airplane is flying over, and there's a decibel level for conversation. Can it be quantified such that, you know, controlled in that manner?
It sure can. You guys just did the generator.
Mm-hmm.
The same technique, right?
Yeah.
It might be a special situation here, Barbara, where you have reverberation in the alley that is basically amplifying what the speakers are putting out. So for the same amount of decibel, you might have a much greater effect in between hard surfaces, as you see. I really see it as a special case, and to President O'Hara as a resident, and it probably is not livable, simply enough.
What I meant was the area where the sound gets travels to the neighbors, so that the measurement would not be taken inside, so that when the window is just there instead of the whole door, it's great that most of the sound is inside, but still, with that window open, it could be too loud. And so having a level of reading of decibels would be a way to say that. It's more objective, that's all. I'm trying to put in an objective measure.
I think you'd probably have to be able to go put a decibel meter all over there, including at the second floor window and whatnot. And I'm going to guess part of what I picked up from what Regis also said is a lot of that is probably variable from space to space. I'd be willing to propose that, at least for now, that that we advise Drew to limit these events to acoustic only, and let's see how it goes from there. But right now, if we've got multiple neighbors who are in exceedingly close proximity to this, I think I would give them the benefit of the doubt.
Agreed.
I would agree with that as well, Mark.
No objection here.
Yeah, I would agree too. So I guess our next step is how do we move forward with that?
So Drew, you said that would just be our advice to you.
Yep, that's fine.
As the administrator.
Yep.
Okay. And that doesn't necessarily tie us to a special event, John, or something else that comes along that you may want to host. You may close the street off or something. Give you the ability to work with that and maybe engage the neighbors in some future proposal that you might come forward with. I was randomly thinking of totally unrelated to this. I remember our church had a band that was almost like back in the day you would have called it a Led Zeppelin tribute band, and the church let us put that band in the back lot of the church in a neighborhood filled with families and everything else like that. It would have rocked a decibel meter. And I just happened to think of this the other day, and I'm thinking, what were they thinking? Allowing this band to be there, but God bless them, we didn't. I guess in the spirit of the church, they forgave us.
Grace.
So,
yes.
Anyway, I digress.
All right. With that said, and John, I'm sorry for any awkwardness, but I like your model. It's a good model. It adds to the community and it adds to the vibrancy. With that one little picadillo, everything else is fine.
Ms. O'Hara, I call the question.
Okay. Can we direct then at this point in time for acoustic only, no, I lost the word, no
Amplification.
amplification, thank you.
But just to be crystal clear, the existing speakers on the wall that's separate. This is this is when they're setting up shop for concerts.
I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
That's our compromise, okay?
Okay.
Let that go, yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else on others, on anything on this particular second reading?
And Madam President, I don't know if there's other people still on the call. There is somebody's raising their hand. I'm going to let them in.
Oh, please do.
Okay.
Hello?
Gary? Hey, Gary.
We're
Yeah. Hi, Gary Lawrence, 362 West Prospect, and co-owner of Lawrence Property. Between Center Avenue Partner and our property is the Prairie Espresso location. I've been watching the meeting, thank you, and back then we were co-applicants with Center Avenue and Prairie Espresso for the adding of the liquor that John has had, and I think overall it's been a great project, and I look forward to what he's going to be doing here as well. But I have more of a question that may be directed more for Drew and Peter, which is basically regarding the public access and egress for the public walkway. Is there an actual width that is required for that public access and egress? And I only bring that up because it seems that, the entrance on Scranton, I'm looking down the road here with the pub that, has been approved, that one of the entrances to the pub would be people walking down that alley. But right now, it's like less than 1 foot is the entrance off Scranton down the alley between the two plants. It's less than 1 foot. So I know it says it has to remain open for access egress, but I don't know, is there a specific distance what that means? 3 foot, 4 foot, 10 inches, what?
I'm looking in the ordinance. I don't recall there being one. I think what we've done as a practical matter is the width of somebody who would be in a wheelchair. The idea of a minimum, I think we've used like 42 inches or so as a guidepost for that. I passed through there on that space, what was it? Sunday morning. I don't remember being as narrow as a foot wide. I don't remember that at all. I don't know if that changed today, John? Is that?
Sometimes I'll tell you that shenanigans happen when I'm not there. The wind blows a tree down, somebody picks it up, puts it back, tables move. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to minimize. But I typically keep it at 3 feet, clear path. That was what, if you span a tape from table to table when I was approved for the layout for the tables, that was the walkway through the table. So that's where I typically try to keep it at. The plants are easy to move. That's not a problem at all. We can do that no problem. And, it shouldn't be a foot. If it is, I'll direct that first thing in the morning around 7:30.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Yep.
Bye.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Roll call, please.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Gerlo.
Aye.
Trustee Dort.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Okay, we have item number 13, which is an ordinance amending Title III of the Village of Lake Bluff Municipal Code and the comprehensive fee schedule concerning liquor license. This is also second reading consideration. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Charlot and second, I believe, by Ms. Markey. This is, sorry. Oh, I beg your pardon. This is the second of two board items relating to a pending zoning relief application filed by Prairie Perspective a la Prairie Expresso. The attached ordinance recommended by the Liquor Commissioner proposes the following changes to the village's liquor regulations. Expands Prairie Expresso's SU license into their new tenant space and increases the fee associated with the Class U license accordingly. Expands Innovasi Restaurants LLC off-premises retail sales license to include liquor in addition to beer and wine. The Village Board approved first reading of the ordinance at the September 28th meeting. Are there any additional comments or questions? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Item number 14, which is an ordinance granting a special use permit, site plan approval and variation for automobile dealership, Imperial Motors, which is at 39 to 47 Sherwood Terrace. This also is a second reading consideration. And do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved
Second.
by Mr. Stewart and second by Mr. Meyer. On February 6, 2020, the Village of Lake Bluff received an application from Green Bay Properties for a special use permit and variations necessary to develop the subject property as a new automobile dealership. The petitioner is also the operator of Imperial Motors, Jaguar, which is located nearby, and intends to relocate that dealership to this property. This would allow their existing dealership to be repurposed by a new dealership or other tenant. In total, this application requires site plan review, a special use permit for a new automobile dealership, and variations concerning the location of parking and loading zones. Architectural Board of Review reviewed proposed site plan on March 3rd and recommended approval subject to the following conditions. Install the strip windows on the west side elevation with the sunshade over the windows. Maintain the exterior lighting at a color temperature of 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Combine the entry and welcome sign with the directional sign at the entrance from Route 41. And revise the garbage enclosure to horizontal cedar, painted or stained to match the building. Thereafter, public meetings were suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and during this period, the Illinois Department of Transportation notified the applicant that it would refuse access for a right-in, right-out access to the property from Route 41. The applicant intends to continue to seek Route 41 access from IDOT. At the applicant's request, the PCCBA considered the requested zoning relief during a public hearing at September 16th. The PCCBA unanimously recommended approval of the application as originally submitted with Route 41 access, or under an alternate site plan that eliminates the Route 41 access. The only recommended condition of approval was a series of conditions designed to prevent car deliveries from taking place on the shoulder of Route 41. The ABR conducted a second public hearing at their October 6th meeting to consider the latest revisions, including the west windows without sunshades, new trash enclosure design, an alternate version of the site plans without Route 41 access. The ABR voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the applicant's proposed revisions as submitted. Updated ordinance reflecting the ABR's October 6th deliberations have been prepared for second reading consideration on October 12th. And the Village Board did approve first reading of this ordinance at its September 28th meeting. Do we have any comments or questions?
Drew, do we have any further update from IDOT?
No, we are unfortunately in a holding pattern. We're waiting to hear back from their staff.
Okay. Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlow.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Markey.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
All right, we have agenda item 15, which is a resolution approving a license agreement for the use of village property for the construction of Bluff stabilization improvements. This is for discussion. Over the past several weeks, the village, do I have a motion to allow discussion?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you by Ms. Marquis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Toll. All right. Over the past several weeks, the village has been in discussions with Jason and Kimberly Beans, owner of the property located directly to the south of the Lily and Dell's property at 718 Mountain Road, regarding their proposed bluff stabilization plan and possible use of Lily and Dell's for temporary construction access. At its October 7th, 2020 special meeting, the village board reviewed an alternate bluff restoration design that ensures lake access via stone steps in two different areas and requires the Beans to dedicate a small area of land, which is approximately 400 square feet, to the village, and a Lily and Dell's concept plan that maintains the Pleasure Drive, improving pedestrian access, achieves ravine slope stabilization, and is designed to be stable through a 100-year storm event. Following considerable discussion, it was the consensus of the village board to move forward with the Beans consultants to refine these plans and finalize the license agreement. It is anticipated that village staff will update the Board of Trustees on the status of these matters on Monday night. So I will turn that over to you, Drew.
Yeah, there really isn't anything new to add from this memorandum that was put together on Friday, other than I would say, provided there is no other concerns or any questions, then staff will continue to do what's set forth in this memo, is to finalize a license agreement that includes the alternative bluff restoration design and the Lily and Dell concept plan as was presented on Wednesday evening.
Questions, comments from the board?
I just wanted to thank the staff again for working so hard to pull this together, and I think it's a good compromise. I'm looking forward to what they bring to us in a few weeks.
Yeah, I concur. I mentioned the other night that I was particularly pleased with the spirit of cooperation of all concerned here. We've merely worked a long way through a very, very difficult set of conditions.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? All right, then we shall wait to hear back and take it from there.
Thank you.
See how the discussions continue. Okay. At this point, do I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and litigation issues?
Both pending and probable and imminent litigation.
Both pending and probable and imminent.
If I may, let me just double check one more thing, Madam President. Yeah, we had the item 17, the closed session meeting minutes from September 28th. If the board wants to consider those in advance, sometimes we have technical difficulties and we lose our meeting. And so it'd just be easier. I think we talked about putting those first and considering those moving forward.
All right, let's do that. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve number 17.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Meyer, and second, Mr. Charlot. Any questions? Let's have a roll call on that.
Trustee Charlot.
Aye.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Marquis.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankman.
Aye.
And President O'Hare, you also have the trustees report.
All right, thank you. I forgot about that. Yes, trustees report before we go into executive session. Any of the trustees have something to report? Okay, with that, do I have that motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Ms. Ankerman. And do I have a second?
Ms. Marquis.
I'm getting you two mixed up today.
We must sound alike tonight.
Mopsy twins, I guess. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, Ms. Marquis, and a second?
Second.
Was that Mr. Toll? Thank you. And let's have a roll call on that.
Trustee Dewart.
Aye.
Trustee Marquis.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee Toll.
Aye.
Trustee Ankerman.
Aye.
Trustee Sherlock.
Aye.
All right, do we have a separate link in for this?
Yes, Madam President.